One of the things I always thought about is that the budget for IT should always have security baked in. So there should be like a percentage of whatever you're spending on IT. There should always be a equivalent little buffer budget for security. And I mean a responsible, well thought out amount. I don't mean to minimize it or say it's little, but it should be there, and assume that every new system that comes online will require its ancillary budget for security so that you can correctly bring the system online. And we're not going to fly by the seat of our pants, and we're not going to take undue risk because you may lose the investment that you're making in your technology. We have strict policies around that, zero tolerance, right? And that's, I think, the step one, have strict policies and zero tolerance and education for your members and your employees. But then how do you stop somebody from using their own ChatGPT and at the same time trying to drive adoption, right? My job is to try to drive adoption. I'm trying to make sure that everybody in this company uses AI to make their work more efficient, make their productivity, double, triple, 10x. I always say, if you're early on in your career and you're looking for your way to break in, if you're mid-career and you're looking for your next opportunity, or if you're, a seasoned leader and you're looking to really expand your network and gain a lot of network influence and things like that, these professional networks like ISACA and ISC Square are the best. And they really can be a boost to your career. In fact, that's what I give a lot of advice to a lot of young people.
Hi Mo, welcome to Be Fearless podcast.
Hi Sasha, thanks for welcoming me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you here as well. I'm super excited about our conversation because you had such an interesting cybersecurity career, and your journey probably started from the place that most of the people think the least where it can start from. You started from being geophysicist and literally exploring whatever is happening beneath the Earth's surface, and eventually found yourself securing what's happening above in cybersecurity.
Right.
Today, you're a CTO of Schools Insurance Authority, and your work is to protect California schools and, as you put it, keep dollars in the classrooms. So welcome to the show. You started as a geophysicist. That's probably as far as you can go from cyber. What made you pivot from this career path to technology?
That's interesting. I think the answer is, for me at least, you fall into things, right? I fell into geophysics. It was a job that was available to me at the time, and I had a science background. That's what I studied in college. And so, I was looking for an adventure, and geophysics is definitely an adventure. You live out in the middle of nowhere, and you take helicopters to work and things like that, and it's definitely an adventure. But I fell into that, and it was great. It was a great experience. I learned a lot. I accomplished some stuff. So very early on, I was part of a team that actually discovered 72 megatons of chromite ore in the north of Canada. So that's one of the largest deposits of that mineral in the world. And so, I was part of that team, definitely not me leading that, but, I was there. And so it was a great experience. I learned a lot. I learned that, a lot of self-reliance and don't wait for somebody to show you or tell you how to do something. Just figure it out, because there's nobody out there that will help you learn something or teach you something. You just kind of have to figure it out and be resourceful. And so that skill kind of was something I gained. But then how did I get into technology? Well, again, I fell into it. I kind of, decided very early on after my geophysics endeavor that wasn't going to be my career forever. I just didn't see myself living in a tent in minus 60 degrees Celsius. That was like the average temperature in the wintertime out there. So I was like, you know what, this is not for me long term. The adventure is wearing off. So I decided to shift gears. Initially, I was thinking, well, maybe I'll get into finance, or something like that. And so I moved to London thinking maybe, okay, let's get a new experience, a new perspective, and a new kind of career path. Finance was not going to happen in 2009 with the crash happening. And so I was looking for a career path. IT seemed like something that I could do. It was something that I was always good at. That's one of the key things that I learned is find something that you're good at and then go after that, because that most likely will be able to make some money out of that. And so that's what I did. I knew I was like good at IT, but I didn't know that I was going to be able to do all the corporate IT stuff. I wasn't very knowledgeable about corporate IT systems at the time, but I fell into this. I got an opportunity, a chance to kind of learn the ropes, and I started at the very bottom. That's what the proof of the IT industry is, that anybody can kind of get into this field and then really make something of it. The opportunity is there. It's what you do with it, right? It's what you kind of make of that opportunity. And I feel like that was my trajectory. I was able to pick up things very quickly and kind of demonstrate my value to the companies that I work for. And, over time, I got promoted, and I became more and more interested through getting deeper into the IT field. And then I moved into security. Early on, I moved into security. I said, okay, this is what interests me. Cybersecurity is interesting because it just poses problems, complex problems, big data problems, very intricate, creative problems. How do you break into a system? How do you, make a system do something that it was not designed to do, so that you can get something out of it? And so these things start to interest me. And then how do you deal with somebody who's trying to break into your system? Like, how do you detect that? How do you stop that? There's these big data problems start to interest me. And so I got further and further into security engineering, and started doing global projects for a large Fortune 50 company. And through that, I got some interesting opportunities. Got to travel the world, got to see different places, different offices around the world, and do projects for a big company. And I got that big company experience. And that's how I initially got into technology and cybersecurity.
Yeah, that's such a fascinating path. And I'm sure for a lot of our listeners that are wondering if they don't come from like cyber background, if they still can enter the space. And I'm sure, there were certain qualities that you acquired previously that helped you to enter the space. I wonder what were the skills or just thoughts that unexpectedly helped you to get into this space and eventually translated into better work in security and tech?
I would say that the skill that I really still lean on is the skill of, or at least the mind frame. I think it's a perspective, is that there is nothing that I cannot understand, and there is nothing that I cannot learn through some research, and all the information is out there on the internet. Now that we have AI, it's at your fingertips, and you can learn to do anything. All things are just concepts, and if you can teach yourself how to do something, you can demonstrate value to a company, to an organization, to whomever you work for. And you just should not feel like you're limited by, okay, well, I don't have this certification, or I don't have this level of education. Actually, some of the best people I've met in the IT field have never been to college, and yet they are incredibly skilled and very capable. I think the lesson that I learned is, don't let things be limiters to you. Don't let the feeling of, well, I don't have this level of education, or I don't have this certification, or somebody's telling me I don't have enough experience. I mean, perhaps you don't have enough experience, but to solve that problem, you just need to start reading, start understanding, start volunteering. and then you can get over those hurdles. So I think that's the skill that or at least the mind frame that I got very early on, probably through that first job where I was a
Yeah.
geophysicist, because, they put you in the middle of nowhere, and really you can't
Minus
say,
60.
well, yeah, well, I'm not, you can't just say I'm not qualified or I can't do this. There's a job to be done. And you have to be very resourceful, right? We had to build our own camp. First thing we had to do was build our own camp, so that we could live in the camp. And then we had to, continue on with the job that needed to be done. And so, there was no excuse of okay, well, I'm not qualified. I'm not a qualified carpenter or something like that to build this stuff. You had to do what you could do, because it was a means of survival at that point. And so I think that was what I learned. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure when you're put in such extreme conditions and you had to fight to survive, you had to learn how to work with your team and just go through so many challenges on an everyday basis. And that is literally security life today. Is slightly better, more comfortable offices, but
Right.
deep down, this is the replica of the process that were happening back then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Security is a process as well. And at the beginning, it's uncomfortable because, you're usually doing the most mundane tasks. You're usually doing the most high stress work because, you're either in a SOC or you're in the weeds of looking at logs or building big data systems and things like that. So there's a lot of minutia. It can be mundane and it can be highly stressful. There's a lot of burnout because there's a lot requested of you. But that is where you learn your trade. And that is where you really get that skill that allows you to persevere through the rest of the, moving up the chain, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, as you were saying, moving up the chain, you recently transitioned from security role to CTO role. What drove that decision, and how has this shift changed your day-to-day priorities?
I love security and I love cybersecurity. It is a passion of mine, but I think the particular time in history that we're living in right now, if you are not excited about artificial intelligence and machine learning and what that means for the next 500 years, right? We are in a new paradigm shift. And so that probably is the main reason why I've shifted from cybersecurity to a technology focus, is because I don't want to miss this. I don't want to stay on the sidelines while AI is being implemented and being kind of rolled out. I want to be in the middle of it. And when I was, the CISO at a university, I felt like, and this was like 2023, 2024, and AI was starting to come online, the way that we know it, like the LLM models and things like that, not the traditional AI, but the new stuff that's coming online. And I felt like I was on the sideline. I felt like I wanted to get in there and start. And so I was looking for excuses to bring that into the security world. How can I use AI to, do security and things of that nature, which of course there are many applications of that. But I felt like, wow, this has so much potential to change a business in so many ways. But I'm just at the CISO that I have no ability to make that change or to chart that course. So when this CTO opportunity came up, I said, yeah, this is what I want to do. But then, another way of looking at it was I kind of got sick of being the cybersecurity guy, not because of cybersecurity. I love cybersecurity. I just felt like every day I had to justify my existence. The business was always asking me, why are you here? You're just costing us money, and why are you asking for more money? I thought we settled this the last time we spoke, that, this is what you need. And so it was a constant challenge to kind of convince management and the board that cybersecurity was worthy of funds, a worthy effort. I think most people are coming around to that idea, but I think it's it's still not quite at the level of technology, where technology, I think most CFOs and most of the people that, hold the purse strings understand that every dollar they spend on technology, they're going to get $2, $3, $4 back in efficiency, business efficiency, and return on investment. So,
Yeah.
that was another thing that drove me towards the technology side, because I felt like, you know what, I'm kind of getting tired of justifying my existence. Yeah,
Makes
which is
sense.
sad, because every CISO, I think, in their career, unless they have very supportive management, kind of goes through that feeling. So I think,
I'm sure that this feeling is someone in security definitely experienced. And today, as you know, from the technology side, I knew a lot of new cool tools are coming out. CISO's role is getting trickier because they have to explain why should we add to our budget something that will help secure these tools. And I guess it's all about impact. It's a little bit easier to explain the incremental benefit of certain technology, but from a CISO perspective, it's harder to explain incremental benefit. It's more about if you don't do this, there is going to be no benefit at all.
right. You framed it correctly, right? It's, if you don't do this, bad things will happen, and what bad things, right? It's hard to really articulate those bad things, because people cannot vision things that have not happened or are kind of abstract concepts, right? Like a ransomware attack is an abstract concept, right? What does that really mean for the business? It's very complex, because every business, a ransomware attack will manifest very differently in a business depending on what vertical they're in. And so it's very difficult to really kind of articulate the risk. But, we try as CISOs, we try. And, I think part of it is on us to really refine that message, refine the way we articulate why it's important. And part of it is on the other side, understanding, hey, well, this is real, and it's not just a abstract concept. These are concrete issues and risks that the business faces. And I almost think one of the things I always thought about is that the budget for IT should always have security baked in. So there should be like a percentage of whatever you're spending on IT. There should always be a equivalent little buffer budget for security. And I mean a responsible, well thought out amount. I don't mean to minimize it or say it's little, but it should be there, and assume that every new system that comes online will require its ancillary budget for security, so that you can correctly bring the system online. And we're not going to fly by the seat of our pants, and we're not going to take undue risk, because you may lose the investment that you're making in your technology.
And I'm sure you probably will be the best person to advocate it as you grow in your career, because there is probably no better person to understand the role that CISO is in than you, because you experience all the way through. So I really like this idea of allocating the budget as you become more technologically sophisticated. You also have to be security sophisticated to counterbalance all the risks.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure there were certain adjustments and perhaps some difficulties that you faced when you were switching from security to CTO. Was this something that you think people don't talk enough about when it comes to the switch?
I think the challenge is switching off the security part in your brain, right? And I'm not saying don't care about security. It's don't piss off your CISO, because we have a CISO, and I'm lucky enough to say that my CISO is my friend, right? We are friends, and we're personal friends, right? And so it's good to work with somebody like that, that you trust, you have a personal relationship with. We're not adversarial at all. It goes back to saying, what you said. I was a former CISO, so I understand what it means to be a CISO and the head of a security department, and what challenges come from that. But I also have to turn off that part of my brain and say, well, that's not my responsibility anymore. I have a very skilled peer in our company. Our CISO is my peer. So, some companies, like for instance, I've worked at companies where as the CISO, I reported to the CTO. But in our organization, our CISO is our peer. So we're partners. And so I actually prefer that because I think security requires a level of respect, which the security leader should be the peer of the technology leader, and decisions should be made jointly about security. And that is what happens. So I have to learn to kind of, not step on toes, learn to kind of give the CISO the space and the ability to kind of chart the course for security, even though I feel like this vendor is great, or I think this would be great, or this would be great. And we all have our ideas, and so kind of leave that to the professionals, as they say. So,
yeah. I think it's a great structure. And as you said, it shows great respect to the CISO role and really gives this ownership structure where, as you said, they go hand in hand. But in your industry, as you're working, are there any specific unique cybersecurity challenges that might surprise people? Because I know you have extensive experience in many industries, but if we take insurance industry, what are some of these challenges?
It's a good question. We face much of the same challenges that other verticals will face. But if you ask me what's unique to the insurance vertical, and I don't know if this is unique, but in my opinion, what stands out is the time horizon, right? So we have claims and we have litigation, which lasts for years, and in some cases, depending on the law code and things like that, we're talking multiple decades, right? In some cases, like 40 years. So records management is super important, meaning the integrity of records, being able to kind of access records going back a long, long time horizon into the future and into the past, right? And then making sure that the integrity of those records is preserved, making sure that those records don't get leaked. That's a lot of our very highly confidential information. We have medical claims. We have a lot of different types of claims, lots of very sensitive kind of scenarios that we deal with. And so I think because of that sensitivity and the time horizon, it becomes a challenge, a unique challenge, because we can't just very casually throw information out. Like good data governance says, well, you have a limit on how long you should keep some data, right? 7 years, whatever, and retain that data. Our retention policies sometimes have to be forever, unfortunately, because of the nature of, our business. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a very unique challenge, and I'm sure it also brings so many additional layers that people in other industries thinking, okay, I can slightly relax on that part, but you definitely cannot on your side of things. And I think as you brought up, the sensitive data is a big challenge because you have to handle so much large volumes of this data. And today, as AI and all of these models are being accessed via the browser, do you think, is there a way or mindset that is shifting in security space when it comes to whether it's AI tools being accessed via the browser, or another example could be accessing personal Gmail versus company Gmail, because all of this originates there. How do you see security leaders approaching this issue today?
Well, AI definitely poses a huge security problem, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious. Everybody's talking about it. That's the big hot thing right now in the cybersecurity space, is like securing AI agents, having an AI broker, all of this stuff, securing your data, data governance, so that the AI can't just, bring up somebody's salary, when you ask it, or something like that. So these are very obvious kind of problems because of the new generation of AI. But I think we're still in the infancy. And I believe that the current technology as it is kind of like, I look back to like 10 years ago when everybody was moving to the cloud, and, we were moving from, maybe a little bit more than 10 years, maybe 10, 11 years. We were moving from NFS shares, on-premises shares, to cloud storage in a big way. And I remember people were really going outside of the IT boundaries. So it was shadow IT. We're all concerned about shadow IT. They were opening up their Box account or their personal or mega upload or whatever, right? And transferring files that way because they felt like this is easier for me. I can just sync my files to the cloud and I have them saved at all times. I don't have to be on the VPN. I don't have to have a network access back to the share in order to get access to this data. It really peeved the IT department because, the IT department was not happy with that because this is not a corporate sanctioned tool. Who's paying for this, right? And who's got governance over this and control over this? So I look at that time as very similar as today, right now, with LLMs, in the sense that everybody's got their own ChatGPT accounts. Hopefully they're not using the free ChatGPT account, where it's just open and go ahead and put company data. We have strict policies around that, zero tolerance, right? And that's, I think, the step one, have strict policies and zero tolerance and education for your members and your employees. But then how do you stop somebody from using their own ChatGPT? And at the same time, trying to drive adoption, right? My job is to try to drive adoption. I'm trying to make sure that everybody in this company uses AI to make their work more efficient, make their productivity, double, triple, 10x, the 10x engineer, that's become a cliche now. Yeah, right. And so how do you do that? How do you require that while also saying, wait, hold on, slow down, don't do that. Are you using, our tools? And so I think what I've come to is you don't want to be the don't do it, don't stop. I learned that from the last time around with Box. You can't really stop people. So what it is how do we get around Box? We got a corporate Box account and we give everybody a license and say, here's your corporate Box account. Here's your corporate Slack account, and then we could put our controls around it and everybody's happy because all they wanted to do is get something done. And so what we're trying to do is get everybody who wants one, a GPT license or a Copilot license or a Claude license. But as long as we control the tenants, at least we can control the data flow. That's where we're starting. That answered the question, but Yeah,
it did. I guess also the place where you're in, you want to encourage that adoption. Do you see any hurdles and tension between the CISO and CTO team when it comes to technology adoption, or do you find the process to be pretty smooth?
Well, it depends on the relationship, right, between the CISO and the CTO. I think a good CISO is not very adversarial. That's the way you get things done anyway, is through being simpatico, in harmony. Of course, the CTO has to have the mindset that security is important, and we're going to build it in as we move. And so that, I think, is the mindset that I use. So everything that we're putting online, we're building in security, and we're making the effort to make the investments as we move, right? So we want to make sure we make that investment in security and not make it an afterthought, because that actually adds more work. And so it's actually better to bake the security in from the ground up than having to go and, for instance, apply security on your already built data lake, which could be massive, right? And so, yeah.
Do you find your approach, where being in a CTO and a CISO more like a peers, unique place to be in, or more like a norm? Because I would imagine if the same situation, the same technology adoption is happening in a company where a CISO is reporting to a CTO, would that follow the same path, or would it face more challenges as technology is getting adopted and security is playing the catch-up game?
It is an interesting concept to think about because from my experience, I've had both. Okay, so right now I'm the CTO. My peer is a CISO, and I have been a CISO where I report to the CTO. And so what I have noticed is that if you're reporting to the CTO, you are part of the technology organization. So what that means is you're on the same team, quote unquote, even though, me and my CISO, we're on the same team. We consider ourselves technology at large. But in a lot of companies where the peer is a CISO, they report into legal or compliance or something like that. I mean, the good thing is they get a lot of autonomy. They can chart the security program the way they want to. They can say, well, you've got a problem here, you've got a problem there. But where they lack influence is in security engineering. So now they can say, well, you need to have these firewall requirements or these data security requirements, but the CTO has to decide how to implement those, right? So, buy the technology, get their team to implement it, get their network engineers to implement it. And so if you've got a well-oiled machine and everybody's very skilled and you trust the technology department to get it implemented and you'll just verify later, then that's great. Okay. But in my experience, I found that you may not get the same caliber of individual in the technology department that is, ultimately responsible for fingers on keyboard, configuring some of these security devices because they're not security professionals. They're storage engineers or they're great with Cisco switches and things like that, right? But they're not subject matter experts on firewalls and other security technology. And so that's where the warning is that sometimes the peer just doesn't have his or her own team of engineers. They're mostly compliance people or, a GRC people, and they're mostly there to kind of run through the motions of, well, don't do that, don't do this. We recommend you get this technology, audit this, audit that, which I think is the most boring part of security. And I might be biased because I'm a security engineer and I love to build systems and I love to build security systems. And so for me, it's like, I want access. Give me global admin and give me access so that I can build a system and really kind of move the needle and configure it. And so.
Yeah, I think when it comes to, a CISO or someone that wants to become a CISO one day, to consider what is their next step, where should they go. So much is dependent also on the organizational structure, because you might have exactly the same set of people, but if the structure is slightly different and you have different say in who you report to, at the end the impact can be very different as well. So this is a big lesson for anyone thinking, okay, which direction should I go to? Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree, but a lot of the times you don't have a choice. If you're accepting a job somewhere, the reporting structure is kind of known to you, right? So you have the choice not to take the job, go find another organization where, the conditions are more favorable to your, the way you want it. But when you're in an organization, the reporting structure of, the technology department is kind of set even above the technology leads. It's set at the financial CFO level, the chief operating officer, how they feel like they want to operate their organization. But I advocate for the security function being a pure technology function because I believe that security deserves the same level of respect as the technology team, in the sense of, and by respect, I don't just mean, they're being disrespected. I mean, in terms of focus on, we have to dedicate some time and energy and investment here on security. And, if they're just consumed into the technology department, then the top level managers of an organization are not really concerned with the day-to-day security posture of the company. They are concerned with technology in some way, because they have business needs. security is an afterthought. That's my opinion. Now, everybody's opinion can change. You can ask another CISO or another CTO, they'll give you a different opinion. That's fine. Those are all valid opinions. And it really depends on, the way your business is structured. Now, as a CISO, if you're asking me, well, as a CISO, how do I make that decision? Well, that's again your opinion and your preference, and hopefully you'll land a position as a CISO in a company where that is aligned with your preference, right? And usually when you go in for the interview, you're going to know who you'll be reporting to.
You can already mentally prepare yourself. What is the structure going to be like, and what the following actions that will come from whatever suggestions you bring. And that also leads me to my next question. I know that you're a director and a board member for ISACA Sacramento, which is also a big role to help advocate the development of this whole space. Maybe tell a little bit more about the work that you've been doing there, and what eventually inspired you to take this role.
What inspired me? I had just moved to Sacramento. And so, I spent most of my time in California in the Bay Area. I'm originally from Canada, Toronto, and I moved to the Bay Area at some point. And then I spent most of my time in the Bay Area. And then I moved out to Sacramento. When I arrived in Sacramento, I had to rebuild my network, rebuild my contacts. Of course, I've got my Bay Area contacts. So when I arrived here, ISACA and ISC squared, which I'm a CISSP. So in fact, ISC squared is my stomping grounds as well. And so, but ISACA is the organization that I had an opportunity to serve with. And so, what I realized is that was a great way for me personally to build my network and really meet some like-minded people and make some friends, some really great friends, professional friends and personal friends. But it has evolved to a mission, and the mission is to really build a community here in Sacramento. And what I mean by that is I feel like the Silicon Valley gets all the attention because we're right beside the elephant, the 500-pound gorilla, right, which is Silicon Valley. And so, but Sacramento is important. Sacramento is the capital of California, the fourth largest economy in the world. And we have multiple verticals, the traditional verticals, healthcare, banking, all of these things. And so we have a lot of cyber professionals here that are, involved in all these other verticals. And we have a community, and we need to bring that community together. And that's what we've been doing. We've been slowly growing our community, and they keep showing up. And so I guess we're doing something right. And so it's a bit of a passion project for me, is to give back to the cybersecurity community and also build our local Sacramento, Central Valley cybersecurity community.
I think this is an awesome mission, especially in a place where, as you said, security isn't that concentrated in one place. There is never, I would say, enough effort that you can put into growing something as this. And I'm sure we have a lot of listeners who are thinking of either entering the cyberspace or growing in the cyberspace. What advice would you give to those people looking to build a career that is a little bit unconventional like yours, and just make it big?
Well, I think I'd connect the dots, right, from when we began to where we are now, right? So the first lesson is don't let anything limit you, in terms of don't let somebody say that you don't have the right education or the right background or the right capabilities. If you are someone who can learn, you can learn cybersecurity. So it really comes down to your own effort in picking up concepts. The knowledge is out there, it's freely available. And so really picking up concepts, doing, and really that's the first step. The second step is ISACA. You talked about it, right? ISACA, join your local network, right? If you were an accountant, you would go and find the CPA chapter, or whatever chapter belongs to your vertical. But if you are a cybersecurity professional, go and join ISACA, go and join ISC Squared. And be part of that community, because if you're looking to break into the profession, you have to meet others who are in the industry. That's your way in. You're going to make friends, and those friends are going to say, hey, there's a job here. You're looking for a job? Here's a job. Let's get you in, right? And I will tell you, people like me, when I recruit from the community because I know them. I know them, and I have a prior relationship with them. I know that they're dependable. I know they're interested in cybersecurity. Otherwise, they wouldn't be showing up to our chapter meetings, right? I always say, if you're early on in your career and you're looking for your way to break in, if you're mid-career and you're looking for your next opportunity, or if you're, a seasoned leader and you're looking to really expand your network and gain a lot of network influence and things like that, these professional networks like ISACA and ISC Square are the best. And they really can be a boost to your career. In fact, that's what I give a lot of advice to a lot of young people. I say, and I am really appreciative of those young people that come to ISACA because they're doing the thing that I never did when I was their age. They're getting a head start. And I wish I had done that myself.
Yeah, I think it's quite encouraging and inspirational, whenever young people come and join. At the end of the day, it can create this circle where whatever you pass down to them, then it can actually continue the line of passing down the knowledge. And, maybe someone out there is going to go to their small town and create their own community down there.
Right. For the record, I still have a lot of lead in my pencil. I don't have a foot in the grave yet, so I'm not that old. But yes, the young people, for sure, definitely, yeah.
Of course. We have this tradition more on our podcast where typically our previous guest would ask question to the next guest. So our previous guest asked you the following. What's one area in security that can be improved hugely? And what's one area that you think is hitting the limit?
Okay. So the one area where I think we can really improve in security from the vendor side and from the practitioner side is more focus on legacy technologies. And one in particular that everybody has and nobody likes to talk about is Active Directory. Active Directory is the weak underbelly of almost every kind of company that is, more than 20 years old. If your company's been in business for more than 20 years and you have more than 50 employees, 50 to 60 employees, you have Active Directory. And depending on your Windows systems team, that Active Directory is probably not well configured. And it is a huge weakness because almost every pen test, you'll find that, they were able to exploit your organization using weaknesses that are found in Active Directory. And so I think the vendors need to spend more time with legacy technologies because they may not see the investment there, but we desperately need it in the marketplace because there are still, I don't know, I'm going to estimate millions of Active Directory instances out there. And on the practitioner side, with this movement to the cloud, everybody is focused on cloud security, but they're forgetting that they still have a legacy environment. They still have to maintain that. And now they're focused on AI. We can't forget that we still have Active Directory and we still have a lot of weaknesses there and a lot of holes to plug. And so on the other end, what are we spending too much time on, or what's been, totally explored? I don't know. I wouldn't say totally explored, but like just way too much focus on is cloud security. When you start talking shift left, shift right, and if you look at a lot of these products that they shift right, they shift left, you look at them today, they're almost identical. They have this identical feature set. It's like beaten to death, right? It's like we know that. You do secrets management. We know you do this, that, the other, but it's kind of like just pick a product and go with it, and they all do the same. We don't need another one of those. And I've seen far too many of these cloud security products come up, and I'm just like, well, you all do more or less the same thing, and yeah. So that's my answer to that.
Yeah, it's a good insight for all their defenders and practitioners out there. What is one thing that a CISO/CTO is looking for, and what is one thing they're not looking for. I think it really puts things into perspective. What question would you like to ask to our next guest?
I did have one prepared, and I wrote it down. My question is, what's one security control you'd never cut in a budget crunch, and why?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent question, because as we spoke about AI, as we spoke about all the new exciting tech that is coming into play, there are certain things that you always have to make sure are there no matter what. So this is an excellent question.
So I'm going to watch the next episode because I want to hear the answer, because as a cyber insurer, we are interested in seeing when all the budgets get crunched, what are the CISOs going to keep around?
Yeah.
I'm interested to see that. Yeah. Hopefully none of our requirements, none of our cyber requirements. Yeah.
I'll make sure to pass down the answer to you as well, so you can hear it as well. Well, Mo, it was such a great conversation. I don't think I've heard anyone's story as unique as yours, getting into cyber from such a sciencey space, and in the end still find the link how to jumpstart into something new. I guess that's what security is about, being thrown into water and learning how to swim on the spot. So it was great learning how you got into space, how you approach security today, and how it inevitably led you to a CTO role and becoming more of an enabler rather than the protector, but at the same time making sure that both are aligned. I think this is a very inspiring structure for a lot of organizations to have. So that was a great learning for anyone who's thinking, okay, what is a, I wouldn't say perfect, but almost perfect setup and space to be in. And in the end, what are some things that you can start doing today, joining communities and really showing up for people just like you did on this podcast, and sharing what is there to learn and what is there to improve every single day, because unfortunately security is the space that you have to keep on learning, or fortunately. So this has been great. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, Mo.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoy the conversation, really enjoy kind of sharing. I enjoyed your questions, so thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.